All right, everybody. Today we have V, the founder of Smartlead and Smartlighter, some great tools coming on to talk today. So V, very happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an introduction to the co-host, some people watching may or may not know, Felipe is my business partner and is going to be on this interview too, asking some good questions.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
All right. So to start off, the kind of introduction question to get the ball rolling is who are you and what do you do for people who may not know about yourself or may not know about Smartlead?
Sure. My name is Vaibhav, or V, as pretty much most people on the internet know me as. I've been in the SaaS space for a couple of years now. Background is a technical person, built an agency, scaled it, a software agency to multiple figures. One of the ways we grew that was through outbound. So we converted that into software effectively. First was SmartWeather, which was personalized AI lines. And then after that, we grew that into Smartlead because a lot of people were struggling with cold email. Smartlead is in short a sales enablement platform. We help people land in their leads inbox at scale, and we do that through a bunch of cool things on the back end. But the main difference is we let you add unlimited mailboxes with warm-ups, and we have a cool IP infrastructure in the back end that helps you land in the leads inbox. So that's the massaged version of it.
Awesome. And one thing to
Yeah.
note on Smartlead for everybody listening, Felipe and I have tested virtually every cold email tool on the market. Smartlead is one of the three that we really like. It's a fantastic tool. Anybody looking to do cold email. So we'll obviously have that linked below. So anytime if you want to check it out, it will be there. So thank you for the introduction. And jumping past that, obviously you talked about you started with the agency, you kind of made this software based on your internal things you were seeing a need for, which I think that's the story of almost every software founder I've heard, which is great. But how long ago did you start the agency? How long have you been in the online business game?
2017 May was when I started my software development company. Yeah.
So that's actually
So
relatively recently.
about 6 years.
Yeah.
Well, yes, yeah, about 5 years. But in that period, we have built multiple SaaSes. But yeah, about 5 years was a good window.
Yeah, that's very fast growth. And I'm curious. So obviously you have the agency, you started multiple SaaSes. When did you get involved with 521, your portfolio?
Yeah, so 521 is the agency. That is the portfolio
Okay.
company. Effectively, we would build out business startups for companies. The goal was to honestly not scale it as much as we did. It scaled simply because we got some good customers who we were lucky enough to work with, and as a result, we got to see and help them build their businesses, and we learned a lot in that. And the general thought was, we've done this for so many people, let's just do this for ourselves. And we found some pain points initially that was not related to the agency, but related to the problems a lot of our customers faced, which was in the AI analytics space. So we built that, grew it, sold it right in the middle of COVID. And the way we grew that along with the agency was just aggressive outbound. This was, when warm-ups Lemlist didn't have Lemwarm or whatever, warm-ups didn't exist. So exposing a bit of my age, but yeah, been around, been doing this for a bit.
Well, sweet. And how many
Mm.
companies do you currently manage in that group of portfolio?
Sure. So we don't when I say manage, we've built around 65 to 70 businesses, startups. Of that, obviously, some of those customers they don't exist anymore, about 3 or 4, but about 60, 64, 65, I believe is the number, or 60-ish, are doing quite well. They've all raised Series A. Right now, we do very exclusive work. We only work with Series A and above companies, people who raised funding, know what they're doing, and have a budget to scale. But otherwise, majority of my energy right now, I'd say 95% of my energy goes directly into Smartlead and scaling that, because that's in the short period that's existed, that's sort of overtaken 521 and all our previous SaaSes.
Okay, awesome. And you mentioned you've
Mm.
actually have one exit already from one of your SaaS companies. Is that correct?
Correct. That is right. Yeah.
And what was that one focused on?
So that was called Scenario, which was the AI analytics space. In short, it would help startups, freelancers, and businesses pretty much understand how much money they're making. Everyone was using Zero and all these financial platforms, but I personally, I'm not an accountant. I have no idea what was happening. And it was just as simple as, all right, let's help people find out how much money they're making, whether it's the right time for them to hire someone, whether it's the right time to fire someone, and how can they actually plan without needing the technical knowledge. So the pitch was Canva for numbers, was the easiest way we put it. So what Canva is for designers, we did for accountants. And there was no one exactly searching for this. There was low search intent volume. So pretty much the growth was all outbound.
And when you started that, was the goal to build it and exit it, or is that just kind of happen to have an opportunity?
It was just because we found we didn't find, someone found us at the right time. That was pretty much why we decided to move on. It was a growing business. We had customers across the globe. We even started exploring into the Shopify ecosphere. Yeah, we just found someone who wanted to take over the business and scale it, and that's what we did.
That's awesome. Well, one question that comes to mind is and this is kind of a personal question. I don't always ask this. I love doing a lot of things at once, and there's always that conflict between focus and I have 900 businesses that I need to start this week. So I'm curious your thought process around managing multiple businesses or projects.
Yeah, so I think everyone is like you, including myself, is I want to do multiple things. I don't think there's a right answer. If I say one thing, it'll trigger one set of audience. If I say the other thing, it'll trigger the other. But my lesson learned, and this is just me, I'm just going to isolate this to myself. I personally think doing one thing at a time is what works best. As someone who did a lot of things for a lot of time, and then realized that if I can just focus on one thing and just go absolutely all into it, it works, because when you just put all the energy into it, that is the one. I think that everyone has asked. We've had multiple businesses that haven't worked. It's not like we're one hit, or we've wondrously created businesses. We've had multiple startups that have failed in the past 5 years. But the reason alone why SmartWriter and SmartLead have worked was because when we launched those products, we focused purely on them, dumped everything else. And I think there's something magical that happens there when you put all your energy into it. So that's just my view. Like I said, everyone has their own way. I just realized for me, I couldn't do multiple things, but if other people can and other people have, good on them.
Nice. Well, thank you for the breakdown. So does that mean that for your focus being on SmartLead, do you just have a lower focus on SmartWriter and 521, or do you have like managing partners?
No, because SmartWriter and SmartLead actually fit really closely in terms of infrastructure. So it's sort of the same product in essence. The reason why we released SmartWriter SmartLead was off the backing of SmartWriter. So the infrastructure is fairly different, but there was definitely inspiration. So it's easy to manage the two. But the agency pretty much, I just manage one project at most. And even that one, we're trying to close up as soon as we can. So it's pretty much all in on the SaaS products.
Got it. Well, thank you for the explanation. I think I have one more question here before Felipe hops into some of his. And obviously, I noticed you've been building up a personal brand. I always like to ask people how much of an impact their personal brand has had on their business, because I think people don't estimate, at least for most people I talk to, it's not just that I get leads from my personal brand. It's the people you meet, the opportunities you come into. So I'm curious how that has impacted your growth.
Massively. I think the only reason SmartLead was able to exist in an extremely competitive market was simply because we had a bit of a presence. I had a bit of a presence in the outbound space with SmartWriter. I mean, our own conversation before off camera was we spoke to each other regarding SmartWriter almost 2 and a bit years ago. And then it's just familiar faces that combine. So I think, and I've actually spoken about this a lot, where we speak to a lot of people every day doing cold email. None of these people, some of them don't have any online presence. It's just a website, landing page, nothing. I'm like, you're not going to, even if you have the best offer in the damn world, no one's going to buy from you, because that's just not how selling works in 2023 or 22 anymore. You need to have an existence on the internet for people to be able to review, trust, and get feedback on. And for me personally, having a LinkedIn account that has an amount of following, Twitter, YouTube, or even Facebook groups has made a massive difference, because in the end, people care about the story, they care about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and also it builds a layer of trust. And that's just what it is, right? If I'm over here selling ice creams and then starting a cold email business, there's no correlation. But if I feel the pain and I'm in the grounds with the customers, there's a massive connection that exists between them. And I think that's honestly, if you're not doing that, you should. So if you're doing cold emails right now, you're listening to this, do that, but get up a LinkedIn page, get up your website, just use ChatGPT, doesn't matter. Just post something that just exists, right? I think that makes a big difference.
I agree with you a lot. And it's funny because we run a cold email agency. We work with quite a few businesses, and we could have 2 people selling the same thing. We have a YouTube channel link and the signature of someone who has 10K subs or even 5K subs. They are going to perform better every time.
Yeah. It's just how it is. I think you can be old school and try fight it as much as you want, but this is the new world we're in, and attention matters. I think a lot of people are attention is a new currency. So the more you can garner it, the better it is.
Well, awesome. Felipe, you want to go ahead and hop into some of your questions?
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything's part was so interesting, and one thing I'd like to come back is a little bit on your journey. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I've seen you've been like a Udemy instructor, software engineer, advisor, multiple other positions before. And why did you choose specifically going to like a Codimo SaaS? Uh,
Fair enough. Great question.
yeah.
I fell into it. I'm not gonna sit and say this was my ultimate passion. I fell into it simply because so the quick backstory is I really I love teaching. I loved education. So I was teaching at local programming boot camps in Sydney, and I wanted to find a way to sort of do that more at scale. So launched a Udemy course, and through that was actually how people reached out to me originally saying, "Hey, do you want to build apps for us?" And that is how I launched my agency. So from that, I was like, great. I quit my job. I acquired a few customers, but then I was like, shit, now what? And then I did not know much. I used to send individual emails to people, CTOs, and get really sad when no one replied to me after 10 emails. And now you realize you need to send hundreds. I guess the only reason is because I got into the coding space simply because that's the most comfortable thing I've been with respect to growing businesses. Not that I got there by choice. It's just the only default thing I knew. I know how to run Facebook ads, I know how to run Instagram ads, but for some reason, I consistently always saw results from when I used to reach outbound, build a relationship, and close deals. Is it scalable? I don't know, but that's how I built the business. I got it to 60 companies, so something worked, right? And I used to do it way back in the day where you'd go read their LinkedIn profile, get a virtual assistant to write like a personalized message, send them a LinkedIn email, then they'd accept it, then ghost you, then you'd send them follow-up. This was before Expandy, all these automation tools. I was using jQuery, running it on the console and trying to get some connections before LinkedIn had any rate limits and all that stuff. So it's just what worked for me. And the reason why I got into Smartlead and Smartwriter was simply, again, when we were building scenario, Facebook ads were not working, Instagram was not working, Google ads were not working. But when we were reaching out to people individually on LinkedIn, that was the one thing that was working. And we had a bunch of people do that for us. And we said, all right, let's try automate this. And that's how we fell into this.
That is so interesting. Yeah. And you were just talking about things working and not working. And I thought I should ask you this. Like you've built a lot of businesses, you've seen a lot of businesses now with Smartlead. And like what were like one of the things to make it work with Codimo is not only having personalization, but also having like a good offer, right? And I was curious to ask you, what were like the most unique offers that either like popped out to you, like stood out, or like you found clever, and then like
interesting? Absolutely, great question. I think the best offers are the ones that I'm going to paraphrase Alex Hormozi, but I think it's very true. The best offers are the ones that make you feel stupid not saying yes to. And the other thing is, one thing I've learned is you can see stark differences. People don't buy cheap, they buy good deals.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a big difference when you go and try break the market and say, I'm going to offer something cheaper. No one wants cheaper. They just want something better as a better deal. So when you massage that to be more on that end, makes a big difference. And some of the greatest offers I've honestly seen from people is just that whole breakdown where you're not selling on the first email. The first email is pretty much just saying, I want to see if I can help you, right? Building conversation, empathy, engagement, and just a general, I'm not going to be sounding desperate to you. It's like, when you go into a club, well, I haven't been one in a long time, but when you go into a club and people can tell you're desperate, right? It just doesn't work. Versus when you're there just to have a good time, right? And as a result, a conversation occurs. I think it's very different. And it sounds fluffy, but it's simple as when you send out a cold email. It's like, look, I saw this on your website. I know what you do. I want to try help you. Are you interested? Okay, you're not? Fine. Someone else that you know? Cool. Introduce me to the other person. But the best offers give you a mechanism that in which they're going to solve a problem for you in the time frame they're going to solve it in, and they'll make sure that you're aware the amount of work that's required from your end. So I think these three elements, if they're covered really well, that offer is extremely strong. It's, hey, I can help you get to $300,000 in recurring revenue using cold emails, for example, in X amount of time, right? And all you have to do is just, click a button or whatever it might be. Yeah. So those are the things that I see work extremely well. It's a classic people haven't changed in like 30 years, right? It's the classic how to lose weight in 10 weeks without doing this, right? It's the same sort of thing that's just been massaged across. It's the same thing. It works and will always work. Yeah.
That is very interesting. I can only imagine like how having access to so much data affects the way you yourself do cold emails or you yourself like manage your businesses.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. And changing gears a little bit, one thing I like to do actually for the audience listening to this, like let's say like software engineers that are out there thinking of starting a SaaS company on their own. Do you have any advice for them? Like could be in terms of like skills they need to learn in terms of like say management or just the way they do the code, because the handoff to another developer would be like
yeah. I think it's a lot about no one gives a crap about your code. People just care about what you do for them. So I think that's the biggest lesson I learned ages ago. I'd go to the customer. I'm like, we build this sick algorithm that does the most fanciest thing. And they're like, okay, but the button's not green enough. Like, all right. We'll change that up for you. So in the end, I think what you need to do is just focus on the outcome. If you're a software developer, just focus on getting your first 5 customers. The rest of it is just an excuse, right? Focus on first 5 customers, and then after that focus on keeping those first 5 customers, and then you've got a good business. I know it sounds extremely simple, but honestly that's the genuine truth. It's you reach out to people on Reddit, message them on Twitter, do whatever it needs to get done to get those first X amount of people, understand why they came to you, work with them, and then you get that deal. I've done several talks where I call it the Shawshank effect. If you've seen the Shawshank Redemption, the movie, what you need to build is that pipeline, right? For Andy Dufresne to go from jail to outside. He did not care that it was filled with waste, right? He did not care that it was almost 800 feet long. For him, that was the MVP, right? Because in the end, he wanted freedom. All you need to do is if you have a pipe that's just good enough to get the person from A to B, people will buy. And it's just up to you to find that. So that's what I would say to most people, just look for that particular problem. And honestly, the rest of it, people will buy.
That's very good advice. I love it. And we were talking a lot about customers right there. Like I like to do something that will help your customers now. Like I'd like to know if you have like 2 examples of things people do, let's say in Smartlead, that are completely wrong and that are affecting the results with the tool. And in the other hand, 2 things they've done right and you like to incentivize new users to be doing when using
Absolutely.
Smartlead.
Great question. So as you said previously, we get access to a lot of data, which is, I guess, sometimes an unfair advantage. And I look at some of these people's copy. I'm like, shit, this is great. I need to get inspired by this. And I'd actually jump on the call with them and be like, teach me how you're doing this. So 2 wrong things people are doing is the easiest, most obvious one is just a wall of text. No one has time for paragraphs. You're messaging decision makers. A decision maker has 30 seconds in their day. And remember, they're not expecting your email. So you need to have a massive pattern interrupter for them to be interested. So that's step 1. The second thing, I'll break the second thing in 2 parts. Second part is what we spoke about is an offer. In the end, if you got a weak offer, not personalize it, technical, shortcut, none of that matters. If you got a crappy offer, no one's going to buy. So make sure your offer makes sense. But to that point, your offer needs to be relevant to your customer. So I think lead quality is probably just as important as copy in this day and age. And if you're just selling to random people who are not part of they're willing or looking to buy at that moment, there's no point selling to them. Because guess what? If you've got the $49 subscription from Apollo, so does everyone else who can afford $49, right? So how do you stand out from that? Is what I would say. Now, 2 things that people are doing good, like I can clearly tell the difference between the winners and the ones who are not. You should see some of the campaigns that people who are successful with us do. They've got, I think, 20 A/B test variants. They've spin taxed the entire copy. Like there's nothing in that copy is a single sentence. It's just spin tax everywhere, right? They are methodical in the way they are doing their outbound. They're very systematic in the way they do it. And you can clearly see the results they get. Like this one person, without naming names, I think in about a month and a half or 2 months, he posted a tweet. He added $35,000 in raw cash. This is not pipeline. This is just signed contracts in a month and a half, just using the platform. Nothing crazy, but all he did was he set up a system, tested everything, had the right spin tax, the technical things in place, and was killing it. The second thing, which is, I guess, what most people don't do but should do, which comes to the first part, is don't ask for the sale on the first interview, first call, right? Like the goal of the first email is to jump on a call with them or just express or understand if they're interested or not. Some of the best people use the first email as qualifiers. That's it. Like, is this of interest for you right now? Is acquiring salespeople something that is difficult for you to do? If you're a recruiter, if you're selling to recruiters, for example, you can simply say, hiring software engineers is difficult. Is it? Or what part of your recruitment process is difficult for you? You can just ask them a question, maybe even understand the problem they're facing. So some of the best players do two things well. They know how cold emailing works, which is at scale. So it's iteration and data. The second thing is they don't sell on the first email. They generate, like I said, the first part, they actually have a conversation with their customer and they close a deal. So it's not a 5 email sequence like it's on some Twitter course. Sometimes these things take time, especially if you're closing a $5,000, $10,000 contract. It takes a bit of time.
That is very cool. And one thing I'll add to everyone that's a beginner in the demo space, actually go to Smartlead's documentation. You'll find everything about the technical terms. You mentioned spin tags and everything. It's actually very good documentation. And there's a lot of value in there. I know we put together this big document of the A to Z in cold email. We can even link in the description here for everyone.
Absolutely. We'd love for that. We're actually getting another course out just after this call, completely free and stuff. It's just, same thing. People want to know how to go from A to Z. This thing will cover the whole Shazam for you. But yeah, to your point, get your technicals right, and I think you should be in a good place.
That's great. Yeah, those are all my questions, Michael. Free to jump back.
All right, we got 2 more, I believe, then that will be the end unless a couple others come up. One of them is just your goals. So you started with the agency, you built a company, you sold it, you have 2 SaaS companies kind of combined together. Right now, obviously, Smartlead, SmartWriter. Is the goal to build and exit companies, and just continue that? Or do you think this is a project that's for the next 10 years?
Great question. I think the goal is to build it to a point where we're happy with it, but we don't know where we'll be in 10 years' time, right? So I'd love for this to continue scale. Like we want to take on the bigger players in the market. There's no doubt. We want to take on the biggest ones in the space, and I know we'll get there. It's just a matter of us focusing our energy into it. But at the same time, if someone comes to us and says, "Hey, let's partner together," and we can accelerate that, it's strategic partnership, acquisition, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, of course. In the end, the goal is to help people make money, and that's the final piece. However we help them do that, that's a blessing that we have in mind. But the goal is to just build this product, this particular business, as much as we can, as fast as we can, and then if we have the right strategic partnership, we will take it. But otherwise, we'll keep growing it.
Awesome. That definitely makes sense. And as a final question, we'll link Smartlead down below. We're going to link the guide down below that Felipe had mentioned. Is there anything else you want to leave this interview with, a final piece of advice or a resource?
Yeah. Don't give up on your outbound sequence after 500 emails. This is a volume game. Sales is, am I allowed to swear?
Sure. It's fine.
Okay, sure. Sweet. My dad's in sales, and the way I look at it is simple. It's either a yes or off, but nowhere in between, right? So you need to be persistent enough to do that. And I think at the beginning of the podcast, I spoke about me doing LinkedIn outreach. We closed, they're called Auto Trader. They're the largest car network in the US. Yeah. So we helped build a large part of Auto Trader in Australia. And having the person trust us and build that was almost a 6-month engagement for me. But fact is, we were a small company and we got to build one of the largest products in Australia. So these things take time, and don't let longevity, scare you from it. So send a lot of emails. It will work out for you. If you're not working out for you, change your offer, but don't give up after just 500, 10,000 at minimum.
I actually have one question to add on that. What do you think you're starting cold email? I wasn't expecting this question, but I think it tags on nicely. I see a lot of people where I think 500 emails a month is sufficient. We generally send in the realm of not emails, 500 prospects. We generally reach out to 1,500 to 3,000 prospects a month per client. If you were advising someone to start in cold email, what should be the expectation starting out of this is the amount that you should do first month? Obviously it depends, but kind of an approximate number.
Sure. The ones that are trying to, so it's like, what are you trying to do? If you're trying to build is the context a lead gen agency? perhaps.
We could just call it a B2B service. Maybe it's marketing.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So you're a service company. You're trying to send out to a bunch of people. I'd say try to reach out to at least 5,000 people in a month. 5, so right around what you do, right around 3,000, what you say for clients, just a bit above that. Try to reach out to 5,000 people, especially when you're starting off. The reason why the number is important in the beginning phase is because you are yet not sure what your offer is. Because if you're selling marketing, so is everyone in the world. So what is the tweak that you have? So you might burn 1,000, 2,000 leads, and that is fine. Because out of that 2,000 burnt, the other 3,000 are the ones who will be more reactive to it. So eventually you'll taper it down, but initially you need to start with volume for you to get your basis and your ground and your offer right. But once you get the offer right, then it just is a natural process of iteration. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, V, so much for coming on. This has been great. We'll get all those links down there. And everybody check out Smartlead. It's a fantastic tool. We use it every day, and I cannot recommend it enough. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.